right, so a little different episode of Bayou City Geeks, a little segment. We're doing stage. Why not? With me is Bob Anderson, star of Frank, the man, the music. Bob, how you doing, man?
Good, Robert. How are you?
I'm good.
Thanks for having me here, buddy.
No problem, no problem. Hey, okay, so you've been doing impressions for a long time, but you've been doing Frank for how long now?
For about 3 years.
3 years now.
Yeah. And
But
I started putting it together, and I wrote it about 5 years ago, and I started writing it, and but then we started performing it the first time there. It was at the Venetian Hotel, and then stayed there for a year.
okay. Now you obviously you picked Frank because he's an icon, as you said. He is a musical icon.
Well, yes, but that's not that's not really the reason why I picked him. Yeah, it is the reason I picked him because. So when I started doing impressions, I was the first guy to introduce singing impressions to national television. I did it on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson and stuff.
Yes.
And all impressionists were doing political figures and actors and stuff, but nobody was doing the great singers.
Okay.
Great American Songbook. So I started doing that, and that's what really started the whole thing about tribute singers and stuff. So when I was doing that, I always did the singers that I really just liked. I never did singers that just because they had a hit record, I put them on and I started doing them. I respected certain artists, and those are the ones that I would do. And they happened to be the great singers of that century, like Tony Bennett and Sinatra and Johnny Mathis and all these great singers.
Right.
Nat King Cole and Mel Torme and all those guys. Those are the people I was doing.
Right.
Well, what happened is that the music business changed so drastically that those people are not relevant today in the music world. They're not relevant out here in today's. For example, you don't even hear Elvis Presley anymore. You don't even hear Michael Jackson anymore. This quickly. That's how things are changing so fast.
Right.
Unless you look for him and you go to his own thing on there. They don't ever play him. But Frank Sinatra, and none of the guys that I'm talking about, Andy Williams and all those people like that, they don't mean anything to those people anymore. So Frank Sinatra, I said, I got to pick somebody because my act wasn't working. It was working to a certain group of people.
Right.
But the masses, they didn't know who I was doing. So I said, I got to change something. So I went and I said, I'm going to take Frank Sinatra because he's the only artist who transcends every generation. He's as popular today as he was 6 generations ago.
Not only that, but he transcends like music genres. I mean, you have rap artists who admire Frank.
That's the thing. It's like it's all rap artists. It's like Bob Dylan.
Mm-hmm.
Bob Dylan did a thing for him. Rod Stewart did a thing for him. Paul McCartney did. Stevie Wonder did.
Mm-hmm.
They all did Frank Sinatra's Salute to Sinatra. Did all his music. They did the arranging the way that they didn't do it their own way.
Right.
They took his records the way he arranged them and sang them. And there's everybody in the business, including Mick Jagger. I know Mick Jagger. Mick Jagger used to call Frank Sinatra the chairman of the board all the time. That's how he referred to him. As chairman of the board.
Right.
All the time. And everybody did. He was just something. Not only that he was probably the greatest singer of that bag to ever come along. There's other people that were there,
right.
Not in that bag that are just right there with him. But
right.
But it was his persona. It was his personality, his attitude, his whole thing. But yet it was how great he actually delivered a song, and he was an actor and the whole thing, and Oscar, Academy Award-winning actors and stuff.
Yeah.
And so, bring my phone. You want me to bring my hand? Oh, the whole crowd out here. We've got a crowd of about 200-300 out here, and they told me bring my hand down. They couldn't. Anyway, so that's why I did Sinatra, because now he's the guy that's relevant. And as a result of that, I'll tell you what I did. When I was at the Venetian, on the tickets that were there, on the back side, you could say, are you under 35, are you under 55, or are you over 65? 1/3 of my audience was under 35 years old.
Really?
I wanted to come and see a Frank Sinatra thing. So
it's Frank, and there was a great thing to be said about him, because when I think of the 60s and 70s, the bands like the Who, Boston,
right?
Beatles, their bands. Solo, it gets much smaller, and Frank is one of the few that really like transcends those decades.
That's right. Now, you know, when I say to a lot of people, like when we're talking in interviews, and I say, Frank Sinatra was the most famous singer of all time, and everybody, and they immediately say, if they're a younger guy, they'll say, or a girl, wait a minute, what about Michael Jackson? And I'm going to say, listen, I love Michael Jackson.
Right.
There's not any more talented guy anywhere around than Michael Jackson. But Michael Jackson was dead at 51 years old. Okay. And I said, well, what about Elvis Presley? He was dead at 42 years old. Frank Sinatra performed till he was 83. And the thing is that when it's not just about Sinatra. It's a time.
Mm-hmm.
It's a period when it gave us Motown, Smokey Robinson, Marvin Gaye, you know, Martha Reeves, Aretha Franklin, all those people. Then on top of that, it gave us, like you just said, gave us the Rolling Stones, gave us the Beatles, it gave us Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
It gave us Bob Seger. It gave us all the great performers.
Right.
And then on top of that, there was Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Tony Bennett, Andy Williams, Johnny Mathis, Bobby Darin, Nat King Cole.
Yeah.
All these guys.
Yeah.
It was just a period of music that can't be forgotten.
It's true.
And I am one of the guys that's trying to keep it alive as long as I'm alive.
Good. I like that. Okay, so you're doing Frank.
Yep.
Getting into his mindset. What? I guess like, you know, studying him. What has like really like what's astonished you? Like, wow, like something you didn't know beforehand. Now you're like, wow, that's Frank.
Right. Okay. That's a real good question, because I've really studied all the singers. Since I was about 12 years old, I've been studying these singers. I just got into them so much, and I just learned to sing by listening to them and trying to sing as close as I could to them. And I thought if I could be somewhere close to them, I'd be doing great, because they're the best. So that's how I learned to sing. I never dreamed that I would grow up and become an impressionist and become friends with all these people and wind up doing them all. And,
Yeah, because your friends list is
with all of them.
insane.
I know, it's crazy.
But not only Frank, but like Sammy Davis, Dean Martin.
Sammy was one of my best friends.
Tom Jones.
Yeah, Tom Jones. I toured the world with him, and Tom and I were just together 2 weeks ago in Detroit. I'll show you some other pictures.
I would love to. Yes.
But the thing about Frank Sinatra was that it can be intimidating to try to do him at times. When I started to take this on as Sinatra, because he's just that good.
Yeah.
Okay, he's that good. I'm a serious singer in this business and stuff. I've studied with John Carlos Menotti, the greats in New York City, who was Sinatra and Tony Bennett's vocal coach. He worked with me. Bob Baird did all of Camelot for Robert Goulet and things. I've studied with all these guys. And that's where I took my singing from. And I know Frank Sinatra is exceptional. He's really amazing when he sings. They say back in 1957 he hit a flat note, and then when somebody told him that, he never did it again. Never hit a flat note again. So, but here's the thing about him too, is that he would take on songs that other people never even thought about doing. You know, like he would do songs that were just so obscure and bring them on, and maybe they were even known, but when he took them, made them his own, they were just all Sinatras. He could just do that. When I started to do him, I was working with Andy Williams, Andy Williams. Remember Andy Williams? He sang Moon River.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Andy Williams and I worked together for 4 years at his theater in Missouri. And when I decided to do this show, went to the lower level of my home. I made a room that was about 15 by 15. It was all glass mirrors. And that room, that wall over there was just a big screen. And I had a big thing shooting his videos on there. And I had a great sound system. And every morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, I would wake up and I would put a tuxedo on at 6 in the morning. And I would brush my hair back and stuff, and I would go down. And for 2 hours, I would study every move that he made. When he looks, he does this stuff here, he does this, and when he goes into it. do his ballads, and he's got all this type of moves. I noticed, and I did that 2 hours a day, 45 days a week for one solid year to learn this. And what I noticed about Sinatra, and it's not only Sinatra, it's you, it's me, it's them, you find out what it is, what transpires on you visually when you get sad news or when you get something joyous in your life. You know,
right.
You make the same expressions, you know, because they're you.
Right.
So I had to find that out for Sinatra, what it was, and I saw it, and I went with it, and now it's automatic when I go out there and I get that makeup on that Kazu did.
Yeah, it takes 2 hours to do it.
You know, they told me that Kazu would never do this for me. He said, because they said, Bob, Kazu only does the biggest movie stars in the world, and he won't do this. Well, I caught him coming out of a place. I waited for him, and I walked up to him. He was at MGM Studios, and I walked up to him. I said, Kazu, I have to talk to you. I said, it's about, I want you to do some makeup for me. And he was stopped, and he said, it's for Frank Sinatra. I want you to do this. He says, come with me. So I go back in his room back there. We sat for 2 hours while he looked through everything. And he says, Bob, I call you back. Now, did you see who Kazu is? You know, Kazu is right here.
Right.
Okay. So he won all these awards, all the Academy Awards.
Yeah.
So now,
Grinch,
yeah. So now I leave and I'm driving back to Palm Springs, and I get a phone call. It's Kazu. And he says, Bob, Kazu, I do you. Frank Sinatra is my favorite star. So we did it. So now it's like, but the makeup was $80,000 for the makeup. $80,000 for the makeup. Now that's a one-time thing.
Right.
But then they make a mold of you, and they take it apart, and then they put another thing in there from your head. They put it on, and they pull it apart, and then there's your face. It's your bust.
Right.
Then they come on, and they start putting things. My thing to put this on, they put a skull cap, and then I have a wig. Then I have it up here, comes down here, my cheeks, my nose, my lips, my chin, and my eyes are blue. They changed them too. And when you get into the character,
yeah.
Then as soon as I get that done, I go back to my dressing room, pour myself a glass of wine or something for me to go on. And if you really want to get into it, you pour some Jack Daniels before you go on. You know, then you become, and you feel like when you walk out on the stage, because the music that I have.
Right.
I know I'm talking a lot here.
No. Please.
But the music that I have, my musical director was a guy named Vincent Falcone. Vince was Frank Sinatra's musical director for 12 years. And Vince was his most trusted musical advisor. Well, when he was with Frank Sinatra, Vince was with me before he went with Sinatra. And Vince came up to me one day and said, Bob, I got a chance to do another gig. I said, Vince, what are you talking about? We're doing good now. We're just getting good things going. He says, no, it's another singer. I said, oh, well, you can't do that. He says, it's Frank Sinatra. And I said, big deal. So it's Frank Sinatra, okay? But he went with him, and I understood that. So then when he was done, when he left Sinatra,
right.
Throughout their years, Frank used to say, Vinny, come here. And he'd call him over and say, yeah, take this chart home. He said, make a copy and bring it back. When they left, Frank Sinatra said, Vinny, there's a reason I gave you that. He said, I want you to keep my music going. Keep it going. That's why I'm giving you this. You keep it going. Get Bob Anderson, you guys put this together and do it. So we did. Well, as soon as I closed the Venetian, Vince Falcone got a brain thing and passed away. So, and we were best friends for 35 years. On his deathbed, Vince gave me the music, and he said, Bob, you got to do what the old man wanted, Frank wanted, so keep doing it. So that's how it came about. And now I have 65 of Frank Sinatra's original music with his, not takedown charts. Their music with his name on it, Nelson Riddle, Gordon G, anybody that did it. Okay? So when the people come out now and see, the musicians see the music that's put in front of them,
right.
They flip out. It's exactly Sinatra's music, like you hear it on the records. So when I come out and hear that, and it comes out after the overture, you turn into Frank Sinatra. You could do it. Robert, you could do it. As a matter of fact, you got your mic right there.
I'm good. I'm not Frank good. Last question before we go. What is your favorite song of his, and what's the favorite one to perform?
Well, that's really a tough one, his favorite song, because there's so many. But
Right.
maybe All My Tomorrows is a song that he sang. Today I may not have a thing at all, except for just a dream or two, but I got lots of plans for tomorrow. All my tomorrows belong to you, and it's a great song.
You're
But
good.
so is All the Way. When somebody loves you.
That's a great
Put
one.
on all the way. He's got so many of them like that it's hard to choose. But those are a couple. And what else did you say in here? After the singing, you said, what else is my favorite or something?
What is your favorite song, and what's your favorite to perform?
Oh, to perform. That's hard too. Here's what I'm doing in the show now. I'm doing a thing that he did from Showboat called Old Man River. Okay.
Okay.
And it's a real dramatic piece. Here we all work along the Mississippi. You know this thing, Old Man River, and I'm doing it. And that one I just added, and it's a real great arrangement. And then I added Moonlight in Vermont, another tune that he's doing. That are two just phenomenal new pieces in the show, and I'm enjoying doing them right now more than. They're all the same though. They're all just so because you just know Frank Sinatra was doing. Here's his music.
Right.
So you're out here doing it, and the 32 musicians that I have with me are just exceptional. 32 players with me everywhere I go, and because it's an authentic reenactment. It's not somebody just putting a hat on sideways and going on YouTube and being Frank Sinatra.
Right.
It's a real thing.
Right.
I think it's the quintessential Sinatra production anywhere right now, and we're going to Broadway with it, and that's almost a shoe-in right now. We got all the things lined up, and we don't have the date yet, but it's going to be there.
Bob, I could literally talk to you for hours, man, but we got to get going.
Well, Robert, I thank you so much for having me here. And,
Thanks so much.
No, it's always good to talk to a guy like you. You know, you're easy to talk to. And,
Thank you.
You know, and it's great, man. And I hope you get to see the show sometime.
I hope so too.
Well, I do
I
too.
love Frank. Who doesn't love Frank?
No, exactly.
Everyone loves Frank. Everyone loves Frank.
You know.
Make sure you catch Bob Anderson at Frank the Man the Music. And for that, Robert Behar with Bayou City Geeks. Hey, Bob, thank you so much, man.
Oh, you're so welcome.
That was...